let's have a little look at the disaster that is Queensland's budget and the state of the Queensland government's finances, which is pretty consistent with a lot of governments around the world. Governments are going bankrupt. We're going into a phase where debt's going exponential. We're going on a path down unlimited debt, unlimited inflation. It will take a long time to play out, but let's have a look at what's happening in the short term.
A sea of red is confronting the LNP government in Queensland as it hands down its first budget. Let's go live to Jessica Van Vonderen at Parliament House. Now, Jess, debt and deficits were the order of the day.
Yes, lots of that.
Hi, Lexi. Yes, in dollar terms, the numbers are eye-watering, with deficits in the billions and debt in the hundreds of billions of dollars. But there are some sweeteners for first-home buyers trying to...
On the state's finances.
Here we go.
Serious and sober, mature and responsible.
Oh, that's some interesting propaganda there. State of the budget. But of course, you'll get your freebies. You'll pay thousands in taxes.
Will now get $100.
Oh, you'll get $100 if you've got a kid in primary
school. Each year.
Right, so they'll take thousands of dollars from you in tax, and then you get $100 back, but only if you've got a kid in primary school. Of course, those of us don't have kids in primary school, we won't get anything. And then, of course, you'll get your...
That will support families with the cost of excursions.
Oh, you'll get your $100. You'll be the kids will be able to play sport.
Uniforms.
Excursions.
Whatever they need to give their kids.
That $100 will cover all of that for sure. Yeah, that's
the best start to the school year.
Yes.
Energy bill rebates are mostly
a little bit of help again. The
600,000 vulnerable households
as we progress through
this
this bankruptcy, you'll get more and more stimulus payments from the government. You'll get $100 if you got a kid in school. You'll get an electricity rebate. And then, of course, we'll come to what they're doing with the housing market and the propping up of the real estate bubble.
Standard discount.
Cost of living measures.
29. And there's not a surplus in sight for the entire first term.
This is the books are in the red. And see, this is what they always do, right? And by the way, the debt is growing a lot more than that. We'll see that on the next chart. But here's what they do, right? So this is the 25-26 budget that they've announced. So what they do is we'll spend a whole bunch of money in the first budget and we'll run a big deficit, $8.6 billion. And of course, the debt will grow by more than $8.6 billion because these are just headline numbers. There's a lot of things that go on beneath the surface, let's say. And then they pretend, oh, we'll buy it like 4 years' time. We'll almost stop borrowing money. We'll only borrow $1 billion in 2028, 2029, right? So if you go back 20 or 30 years, every government budget says, oh, we'll borrow a bunch of money now and then we'll pay it off later. And of course, later never comes. It's always, there's always another reason to spend money. There's a financial crisis, there's an election, there's voters upset. People want the quote free stuff from government, and the free stuff will continue to come, especially if we have more inflation. And of course, if we scroll through, we look at the total
by
debt.
20 forecasting total debt will climb to $190 billion.
So they're
by
forecasting
2028.
that the debt is going to climb $20 billion between 2026 and 2027. Well, look at that. It's going to jump $23 billion and then $20 billion in those 2 years. So hang on, the deficit's only supposed to be $5.9 billion and $4.3 billion, but the debt is going to go up by $23 billion and $20 billion. So how does that work? How is it that you're running that when you count your spending, you're running a deficit of a few $billion or $8 billion in 1 year and then $4 billion the next year, but your debt's growing by $23 billion and $20 billion? You see what I mean? Like the debt always grows a lot more than what they officially say they spend. And of course, state governments in Australia are projected by 2028 to be about $800 billion in debt, and Queensland's going to contribute $200 billion of that $800 billion, the way things are going. This is their own budget forecast. This is not some conspiracy thing. And of course, the federal government is $1 trillion in debt, and they have to tax the same tax base to pay the interest on this debt. Of course, the debt won't ever get paid down. So what this means is that within 4 years or so, the Australian government at all three levels, which is the same taxpayers, same tax base, total Australian government debt will be about $2 trillion, $2,000 billion. Right, and then of course that's going to grow.
It left a mess. Right? The ratings agency.
Yeah, you'll be going to the ratings agencies to tell them what a good job you do. Now, here's the thing: they project that their interest payments are going to be about $10 billion a year. I did the math on that, and that means they're assuming an interest rate of about 5.2%. Well, look at what's happening in the Middle East at the moment. Look at what's still going on with Russia, Ukraine. Keeping in mind, ABC News told you in early 2022, a few weeks into that action by Russia, or invasion, I guess you'd say, however you want to classify it. Within 3 weeks, ABC News was saying, oh, that's all over for Russia. They can't get supplies to their trucks. They're running out of fuel, blah, blah. Here we are more than 3 years later, and it's still going on. What happens if we see another massive spike in the price of oil, which fuels global inflation? How are we going to keep interest rates at 5%? We might need 10, 11, 12% interest rates to fight the inflation that we're experiencing in 2028. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. That's not me saying it's going to happen, but this is a possibility, and this is something that they don't factor into the budgets, they don't factor into their debt calculations. And then, of course, let's come to what the Premier said about the housing market. Right. So if you're earning up to $150,000 as an individual, or a household earning $225,000 or less, you may have the ability to purchase a home valued up to $1 million with a 2% deposit, 2% for your deposit. And if you're a first home buyer, you still get the $30,000 first home buyer grant. So you get $30,000. So everyone agrees that housing, we have the most expensive real estate market on the planet. 5 out of the top 15 most expensive real estate markets, cities on the planet, are Australian cities. Hong Kong is number 1. Sydney is number 2. We've got 5 of the top 15, and that's measuring our incomes relative to home prices and comparing it to the rest of the world. We are in a real estate hyper bubble, and everybody agrees that there's both a shortage of houses and that houses are too expensive. The best way to make houses more affordable is to let the price come down. And of course, governments are doing, state and federal, plus the Reserve Bank of Australia, who is the primary cause in my view, they are doing everything they can to prop up real estate prices. And here's more. All this is going to do is allow more people to go into more debt without having, if you only got a 2% deposit, you borrowed 98% of the money, at least to start with. The government may go co-equity, and that would be in the government's interest then to see housing prices going up so they can benefit from the capital gain of the price appreciation. But all this is going to do is allow more people to go deeper into debt, to overpay for the most expensive real estate on the planet. How are prices going to come down when the government's handing out $30,000 for first home buyers and then allowing people to just have a 2% deposit? So people who normally wouldn't qualify for a loan, and that's unfortunate, we want everyone to be able to qualify for a loan, but we can't have the government manipulating the market like this and propping up the real estate hyper bubble. It's just making everything so much more expensive for everyone, for the entire economy. Great if you already own a bunch of houses. I mean, if you're a real estate speculator, or you call yourself a landlord, you've got 5 investment properties with massive debt, you've got 800% of your net worth in the real estate hyper bubble. This is great news for you. Prices are going to be propped up by the state government. Of course, the state government's going to go into debt, accumulate 20 billion, 25 billion of debt every year, just the state government alone, and they'll use some of that money to prop up the real estate hyper bubble and just help young people and people on lower incomes take on even more debt so they can be trapped in that debt cycle. The solution would be to let housing prices come down. So anyway, this is just some highlights. Just thinking off the cuff, some of this really frustrates me and upsets me. And of course, I expect more of this. That's why I titled this Unlimited Debt and UBI coming, Universal Basic Income. You're seeing it now. It's very common. You're getting acclimated to this idea that, if you've got a kid in school, you get a $100 payment. Oh, your electricity bill's too expensive. Oh, here's a $300 rebate or a $1,000 rebate we got in Queensland 6 or 12 months ago. So they're just getting you used to the idea that, we're all going bankrupt, government's going bankrupt, and as we progress through this bankruptcy, you're going to get the universal basic income. You're going to get these little stimulus payments here and there. I expect more of that to come. I don't agree with it philosophically, but I'm just forecasting what I think is going to happen. And more support for the real estate hyper bubble is likely coming, and the Reserve Bank of Australia will be helping with that soon. In a few weeks, they'll probably cut interest rates again. I don't think there's anyone watching this video or anyone I talk to who thinks the inflation problem's solved, that cost of living is not a problem. And of course, if you lower interest rates on net balance, you're driving up the cost of living further. That's the last thing we need. Anyway, some random thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.